Hi, welcome to Off the Shelf with Dr. Hanks. That's me. This week we're going to talk about a book called The Art of Bouncing Back by Darlene Santora. The Art of Bouncing Back. Find your flow to thrive at work and life anytime you're off your game by Darlene Santora. And she also goes by Coach Dar. And if you've been watching any of these off the shelf segments that we've done, you will probably pick up on a trend that bouncing back and being resilient and being able to pick yourself up again after you fall, those are all critical topics to self growth and happiness. And I do talk about them a lot because one thing I have learned in life, a very hard way of done. Let's be clear, I did not choose it. But you can do what you think are all the right things. You can treat people how you would like to be treated. You can treat people how you think they want to be treated. You can do all the things. You can work hard, sacrifice, make plans, all the things. That doesn't keep bad things from happening to good people. And that doesn't mean that all of your plans are always going to work out. So, and through no fault of your own. And you never know how something you say or do today may actually come back to impact an outcome of a situation in the future. So maybe you could say, well, I should have said or done this or that differently. We could spend our whole lives being wrapped up in this downward spiral of constantly beating ourselves up over things that happen. And I think it's it's healthier to me, it's my opinion, that it's healthier to understand that yes, things happen in life that we weren't expecting, that we may not deserve, that we did not plan on. It knocks us off our game, and that is going to happen, and there's nothing we can do about it. So let's just learn how to pick up ourselves, dust ourselves off, and keep going. We need resilience, we need grit, we need an emotional maturity to be able to deal with those things and to ensure that every time things come our way, we don't completely lose our footing and take years to regain, everything that we've been building up for. Now, the author of this, and I just got this book yesterday. It was published, or a couple of days ago. It was published in 2023, so it is relatively new. And of course, the title caught my eye, The Art of Bouncing Back, because that's critically important to me. Now, there's a few things, and the author actually also has explained a trajectory of her life that got her to this point that included having 3 strokes, being told she would never be able to have kids, going through a divorce, fighting with insurance companies over the cost of her health care to recover from the strokes. Then, because of some health issues like that, losing part of her income. She was a public speaker and did a lot of things that she wouldn't be able to do or couldn't do immediately after some of the strokes happened. So then she couldn't even make the money that she was used to making to pay for it, for her own recovery. That in and of itself is going to be a high stress situation. And then her parents passed away, her mom first and then her dad. So she's listed out quite a few things that she's had to go through. And I think any one of us, if we were to list out, let's just look at the last 20 years, and some of us have been more fortunate than others, but, sometimes it's like you think you have it under control and then someone gets sick. You think you have it under control and then you lose your job, or things change so much at your job that you have to find something else, or a natural disaster hits and tears stuff up. A tornado rips through, tears things up that you've worked so hard to build. Fighting with insurance companies like she did for for health care. You pay for insurance, but they don't want to pay for anything you need. It's frustrating. But So she's had her fair share of setbacks, and one of the things that she brought up in the initial discussion of the book was about emotions, and one of her principles is having emotional intelligence and being able to handle your emotions and not let them get out of control and dictate how you deal with the situation at hand. And you have to feel the anger, you have to have the disappointment, you have to have those emotions in order to feel joy. You can't just cover things up and say, oh, I'm just not going to think about that. I'm just going to forget that that ever happened. I'm not going to worry about that person, what they said, what they did. I'm just not going to worry about it. I'm just going to be happy. I'm just going to sit over here. Well, that doesn't work. I mean, it might work temporarily to just get you through a situation, but long term, you're going to then have triggers. It's going to come back. You're going to see someone, and you're going to be flooded with all of that again and again and again until you deal with it. So I think it's important that we understand with our emotions that it's okay to feel them. It is perfectly normal and even advantageous to allow yourself to feel the emotions and understand them and deal with them so that you can move on to joy and happiness and understanding life a little bit better. So, in this chapter on emotional intelligence and regulating, basically what you're doing is regulating your emotions so that you recognize them, you give them validity, you understand, yes, I'm angry, or yes, I'm sad, here's why, I have a right to be, yes, but let's deal with it because I don't want to feel this way for the rest of my life. So you give yourself grace, you deal with them, you experience them, you don't try to cover them up, you don't try to sweep them under the rug, because that's not going to make them go away. That's only going to put them out of sight momentarily, and they're not going to go away. They will resurface. So what I like about Coach Dar's discussion on this is that she basically has three things about emotional intelligence or regulation, that the first thing she says is agility, emotional agility, which is, of course, you've heard of the palm trees that bend in the wind and don't snap, and being flexible. And she also references not letting one slip up or one mishap derail everything. And in this one, she talks about some athletes, and I think if you've watched athletes competitions, one of the things that you might notice, or that I've noticed, is that there are some athletes who, they'll slip up on their feet, they'll stumble, or they'll get tripped up, or they'll throw a ball really poorly in a wrong direction or whatever. I mean, let's just say something happens that throws them off their game, and you can tell from that point forward, they never get their performance back up to a higher level. That plagues them, so to speak. And then a lot of the things that they do, play after play, they just never recoup from that. But then there are also athletes that I have seen who make a mistake, they slip up, they may pause for one moment and realize it, but then that moment is over, and the whole rest of the game, they are still able to perform at their highest level. They don't allow the one slip up to influence the rest of the game. And that's where this agility that Coach Dar talks about is being able to, you have the emotion because you're human. Something happens, it triggers an emotion, you're human. The agility comes in with not letting that emotion then ruin the whole rest of your day or the whole rest of your week or month and throw you off so far that whatever the plan was that you had for tasks to get done or to reach your goal next week, you don't throw all of that out the window. Yes, you had a moment. So we are looking at this as, yes, this was a moment, but this was not a defining moment. I'm going to feel it. I'm going to do it, go through it, drop it, and then I'm going to forget about it and move on. The neutrality she talks about is the second thing. And she refers to like a stick shift in a car, which is brilliant. I love analogies. I love analogies, and I love this one. It's brilliant. If you're going in reverse, you can't just go forward without putting the car in neutral and then shifting gears into forward. So basically what she's suggesting is, and this goes back to that self-awareness, that OODA of the observe, orient, decide and act self-awareness tool that we talked about several weeks ago. The pause. Take a moment. You have to, no matter how stressful the situation is, no matter how fast everything is moving around you, no matter how fast your competitors are moving, none of that matters. You have to be able to pause. Whether you pause, put your hand over your heart and breathe, whether you pause and just kind of regroup and orient yourself, but you pause. You take that emotion that has just sent you on this downward spiral and you pause. Basically what that does is that's putting the car in neutral. That's saying we're not going back in reverse. We're just going to put it in neutral, and then we're going to move forward again. And that to me is just a brilliant way to look at it. So when we say put it in neutral, we're not talking about putting life on hold, for months. We're not talking about pausing and then not doing anything for weeks. We're talking about shifting it in neutral, pausing just long enough to collect ourselves, then put it back in forward or, drive and go in the direction you want to go. That pause is critical to regulating your emotions, to not letting your emotions take control of you and send you down a path that you don't want to go. And so I find that just amazingly brilliant. And she also, like, one of the things she talks about is like, if you're in a meeting, somebody says something or does something, you just flip out. Oh my God, well, then later you feel bad. So then what happens is you then have to have some sort of accountability. You have to have accountability to yourself to say, I am going to regulate my emotions, going to pause, not going to flip out every time something happens. I'm going to keep this under control. But if you do have those moments where you don't get it under control right away, then you need that accountability, whether it is a best friend who can tell you, you know what, you kind of flipped out there, or even just your self-reflection. You say, you know what, that was not my most proud moment. I said and did things I probably shouldn't have. Apologize. Change your mood. Take it in neutral. Reflect, figure it out, and then move on. So we also need that self-reflection or someone to bounce ideas off of, or even a therapist, someone who we can get everything out to and try to make sense of it so we can move on. Instead of the alternative, which is to just allow everything to spiral out of control because something happened. And even if, and here's where I encourage you today, there are a couple of different actions or a couple of different ways to look at this. One is what happens, it's usually like a one moment in time. You get a phone call, you get bad news, you hear something going on around you, you see something, you hear something, things happen in a moment that disrupt your plans and disrupt your day. So you have the opportunity in that moment to regulate your emotions, stay in control of them, not allow them to spiral out. Put it in neutral, and keep yourself from flying off the handle or, flipping out in a way that is not helpful to anybody, to bend like the trees. But then more importantly, or probably equally as importantly, is if you are in a point in life where you've had a string of events that it's like one thing after another just keeps happening and keeps happening and keeps happening. How can you package that and reevaluate? Let's say reset your path, reevaluate what your purpose is. How can you use those things to be positive? How can you turn all of this into positive? And how can you practice resilience and grit in the face of one thing after another, and get to a point where you are able to bounce back so that each time that something happens, it's not pushing you further and further down the downward spiral. Because if you're not completely on your feet after one thing happens, if you've only managed to make it up, let's say you fell down, it's taken you a while, you can only manage to be up on one knee, and then something else happens, you fall down again. You don't even have a chance to get all the way up if you're still down on one knee when something else happens. So the goal is to learn how to recognize it, feel it, reflect on it, put it in neutral, pause just long enough to figure out how to reset your path, where do you want to go from here, then put it in drive and go. Then also to get into a routine of doing that relatively quickly, so that each time something happens, it doesn't just keep knocking you down further and further. You can get back on your feet faster. You can make sense of things faster. You can say, okay, this happened. Does this define me? Does this have anything to do with me or who I am or what I'm doing here? No? Okay, then let's deal with it and move on. Get your feet firmly planted on the ground again. And then the next time something happens, you're not already getting knocked down from a compromised position. You're back on your feet. So, sorry this is such a long video today. There is a ton of stuff to unpack just in this one key takeaway. The key takeaway is that emotional intelligence and having agility, having a pause, a neutral state that you can use to keep yourself from going down a downward spiral, being able to get up and move forward, reset your path, reset your purpose. All of those things will help you and clarify your purpose in life, and will make it so much easier to deal with all of the things that are going to happen to you over the course of 15, 20 years. Maybe they already have. But being able to handle your emotions and be resilient and get back up on your feet fast is what will keep you in a position to handle things as they come. And so you can keep living your life purpose regardless of what things are thrown your way. So, you can reply to my email that I send out with this. Reply to the email. Let me know your thoughts on this. I'd love to talk about it more. This is one of my favorite topics. Leave a comment. Subscribe to the channel on the YouTube channel. Subscribe, comment. Let me know what you think about this. And I see a future of, some more discussions, maybe not on this platform, but having resilience and grit and being able to bounce back is definitely a huge part of being successful in life. So I hope you found this helpful, and I hope you have a great day, great week. We'll be back here next week with another episode of Off the Shelf. Bye.